are here moving in our midst, doing what our eyes may not be seeing and yet we shall see to testify of. Lord, we thank you for your presence. We thank you for your anointing. We thank you for your grace. Thank you for the great work you are doing in our lives. Thank you for drawing us to yourself, that you may refurbish us, reconfigure us, renew us, and reset us. Thank you, Father. We bless your name, Jehovah, in the name of Jesus. Hebrews and chapter 12, verse 14 to 15. We read verse 15 then, but we are reading verses 14 and 15 together. Are you ready with me? Let me start reading and you can follow me in whatever translation that you have. It says, pursue peace with all people and holiness, without which no one will see the Lord. Verse 15, looking carefully, lest anyone fall short of the grace of God, lest any root of bitterness springing up cause trouble, and by this many become defiled. I did promise you that we're going to continue in the series that we've been looking at. And last Sunday, I kind of took us to the theater to look at it in a form of a movie or oral movie. And I know that many years back we had a TV program when we didn't have too many. We didn't have Super Sports, we didn't have the DSTV, but we had the great NTA. And particularly, towards the afternoon, they had this program, I think on Saturday or Sunday afternoon, Tales by the Moonlight, or Tales under Moonlight. Tun, 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 tun. So when you heard that, you come, and we heard the story of the tortoise and the lions and all that. And so, things were given, stories were given, and by the stories, we were able to picture things and we were able to see things. And so I I'm giving you a movie that is acted in an oral form. And we saw that the theater to watch the movie is a huge theater comprising from 2 Samuel chapter 13 all the way to chapter 23. But our objective is to deal with certain things. And remember, Jesus, in most cases, when Jesus preached his messages, he preached it in a story form. The Bible said that he will tell a parable to this end. He will tell the parable of the sower, tell the parable of the rich man and the two sons, and the parable of the rich man whose farm came plenty. He used story to get the gospel across in a picture way, in a way that you can imagine and be able to understand. And so permit me to do that. If you're asking me where I learned that from, I think I picked that from Jesus. Now, to introduce or to get back to where we were before, let me make some 3 important points to you about this subject matter we are dealing with. That is uprooting the root of bitterness. Uprooting the root of bitterness, and we continue from where we stopped. Let me make these 3 points to you. Point number 1. A question that I may ask you is, who does bitterness destroy? Who does bitterness destroy? And let me give you the answer quickly. Bitterness does not destroy the person who made you bitter. Bitterness destroys you who is bitter. Because the truth is that you can never be bitter against a person, and something in you will not be looking forward to something bad happening to that person. When you are bitter against somebody, there's something in you that wishes that something bad will happen to that person so that you can say, Int'l. And until that thing happens to that person, the bitterness will be eating you up. Because bitterness is very corrosive. As long as it's in you, it's destroying things. And while it is in you, you are hoping You may not verbalize it, but you are hoping that something terrible will happen to the person to show that, hey, because of what you did to me, God has paid you. And until that thing happens, that bitterness will be corroding a whole lot of things on the inside of you. Because you can never be bitter about a person and desire that that person will be promoted or something good will happen to the person. Imagine I came over you right now and I slapped you. And while you are crying, somebody shook my hand and gave me an appointment. Will you be the first person to say congratulations to me? In your mind, they have appointed the wrong person. Is that not so? Why in anybody's sane mind will he appoint such a wicked, nasty guy who just slapped me? That is why when somebody gets into an office, people who don't like that person will look for anything to bring him down. When you harbor bitterness, something in you will always seek revenge. And anytime you seek revenge, you contest position with God. Anytime that you seek revenge or you seek vengeance, what you are doing is that you go into election and either God is Bernie Sanders and you are Joe Biden, or God is Joe Biden and you are Pete Buttigieg. One way or the other, you can't stand on the platform when you are contestants and say something good about the other person. Listen to them. They are in the same party, but because they are contesting against each other, they don't say anything good about the other person. In fact, they pull one another down. So when you and God are in contest, whenever you look for revenge, you contest position with God, and that is biblical. You can look at it with me, and I will need somebody to make you have a microphone and have the Bible, because we're going to read a few things. But this one, I will help you to read it in the book of Romans chapter 12. Romans chapter 12 verse 19. It said, "Dearly beloved, avenge not yourselves, but rather give place unto wrath. For it is written, vengeance is mine. I will repay, says the Lord." Now, God says, vengeance is mine. Imagine this book in my hand, it's mine. And you want to use it, not by asking me to give you. Okay? Pastor, please come. This book is mine. This Bible is mine. And he desperately wants to use it without obtaining permission from me, without me giving it to him. You want to desperately use this Bible. Not a Bible like this, but you want to use this one in my hand. You don't want my permission. You know I may not give you the permission. You are not waiting for me to offer it to you, because I will not offer it to you. What are you likely to do? Go ahead. You see, he will struggle to take it. Now, who is he struggling with? Now, in the case where this is vengeance, and God said the vengeance is mine, and he wants to use it, what is he doing now? He is struggling with God. Thank you. I know he doesn't do that. So whenever you step into the road seeking vengeance, seeking revenge, you step into a contesting arena with God Almighty. Because God said, vengeance is what? Mine. Point number 2. What defines you? That's a question. What defines you? And people of God, again, the answer is not far-fetched. Your life is not defined by what people do to you, but your life is defined by what you do to yourself. In Mark chapter 7, verse 15, it is written, There is nothing from without a man that entering into him can defile him. But the things which come out of him, those are they that defile him. What people do to you do not define your life. They don't define your life. It's what you do to yourself. It's not your fault that they wounded you, but it is your fault that you keep the wound. Because the one who wounded you has gone on. And you want your life to be defined by the wound they caused because you're unwilling to get rid of the wound. And so your life is no longer defined by the person who caused the wound, but your life is defined by your refusal to get rid of the wound. That is why in that Mark chapter 7 verse 15, the Lord said, it's not what comes out, what comes from outside that will defile or alter you or destroy you, but it is what comes from inside. That means that thing which will destroy you is inside. Point number 3. Another question. You can put that question, whose benefit? Whose benefit? And many years ago we had a song, what's love got to do with it? Got to do with it? Pastor. Whose benefit? And the answer is not too much to look for. Let me put it this way. Whenever there is forgiveness, there's always a giver and a receiver. Right? Now, whenever there's forgiveness, the person who forgives is the giver, and the person who receives the forgiveness is the receiver. I mean, it makes sense. But when God forgives, listen, when God forgives, the receiver benefits from forgiveness. But when man forgives, the giver benefits from forgiveness. Let me repeat it. When God forgives, the receiver of the forgiveness benefits from the forgiveness. But when men forgive, the giver of the forgiveness benefits from the forgiveness. When God forgives me, I am the sinner. I am the wretched. I am the one who could not pay for my sins. I couldn't pay for my debt. I couldn't pay my rent in heaven, talk less of buying a piece of property there. But when God forgives me, He does not only give me rentage there, but He gives me a property, landed property in heaven. So I am the beneficiary of the forgiveness. But when I forgive my brother, it's not the person I forgave that benefits. I am the one who benefits. Because, the book of Mark, chapter 11, verse 25 says that if my prayer is going to be answered, I should forgive. So my forgiving you benefits me. When Jesus was teaching us to pray in Matthew 9, He said to us that, you get to a point and say, our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth. Give us this our daily bread. And what? No, complete it. And forgive us our trespasses as we forgive. In other words, the same way we forgive, that's the way you forgive us. So when I forgive, I am expanding my account. I am making my forgiveness account richer. It said, forgive me as I forgive. So if I don't forgive, let's do simple arithmetic. You have an overdraft in the bank. The bank gave you an overdraft of 50,000 naira for your business. An overdraft is when you take more than your balance, right? So you have an overdraft of 50,000. That is when, Pastor Waku will say your account is red. Red. In banking, black is better. Red is bad. Black is good. Because when it is black, it's good. But when it's red, it means it is minus. So now your account is reading minus 50,000. And then I came to you and I said, the Lord has led me to be a blessing to you. And I'm going to give you a gift. I'm going to write a check in your name. Give me the correct spelling of your name so that I will write a check well, because, if I don't put the name right, the bank will refuse to honor the check. And then you tell me, yes, my first name is spelled Philemon. Okay, that's Philemon. And the second one is Aikins. No, A-K-I. No, A-I-K-I-N-S. And then I'll write it. And then I'll write the figure on it. And it's 35,000 naira. And I gave it to you. And then you take it to your bank. You deposit it into your account. Remember, you had what? 50,000 deficit there. And now you have put 35. The account is still black. So he said, forgive us as we forgive. How much forgiveness have you done? If the Lord is going to forgive you as you forgive, do you think your account will be black? Some of you, from the babysitter that took care of you when you were 5 months old, to your primary 1 teacher and your secondary school teacher, to university lecturer, you are carrying their offenses in your belly. And right now, that's your big stomach. It no be disease, no offense. But God said, forgive us according to how we forgive. That is how Jesus taught us to pray. And in Mark 11, he repeated it. He said, when you stand praying, forgive, so that your Father in heaven will forgive you also. Say, so that, it means that, there are certain things that are whosoever. The Bible has a lot of whosoever, whatsoever, whomsoever, whichsoever. But there are some things in the Bible that we can say terms and condition apply. You understand? Terms and condition what? Apply. And what are the terms and condition in Mark chapter 11 verse 23, 24 and 25? Mark chapter 11 verse 23, 24 will encourage you, whosoever that shall say to this mountain, and whatsoever you believe, when you pray, believe you receive. And then he said, but when you stand praying, forgive. In other words, after you have ballycode in verse 24, verse 25, we tell you, when you were standing, you spoke to the mountain, you asked, but while you were standing, we noticed something. Let's check. That is when the heavenly referee will do like, prrr, and go and check VAR, and you'll come back and say, no goal. You prayed and you celebrated. I scored a goal. Have you seen that happen? They score a goal, they jump on each other, and after a while, they go and check back, and then the goal is cancelled, and they walk back to the pitch again. And there are some people that have prayed, they sweated, they fasted. And after they have done all that, they say, I prayed. 21 days, I prayed, I fasted. Even water, I didn't drink. And after you have prayed and prayed and prayed, there's a whistle. Prrr. And then you go back. And we go, prrr. And they will say, offside. When you forgive, the beneficiary of that forgiveness is not the person you forgive, but yourself. So you need to mark that. Now let us read the book of Acts chapter 8. Can I get somebody that will help me? Quick. Acts chapter 8 verse 23. Let me read that quickly while somebody gets the Bible. For I perceive that thou art in the gall of bitterness and in the bond of iniquity. That is in the book of Acts. Two of them work together. The gall of bitterness and the prison of iniquity. The bond of iniquity is prison of iniquity. You see, gall is a very, so to say, bitter and acidic fluid that is, when I was a child, I got to know about it in the chicken. When they are dressing the chicken, they said there's something that if they don't take care and remove it carefully, and that thing bursts into the meat, the whole meat. And I used to wonder, that thing must be powerful, that if they don't take care of it and remove it, and the thing bursts, the entire meat will be bitter. But as a boy, I didn't know, I did not really investigate well. But when they are doing the chicken, and I got to know that my mother, you know, those who are close with your mother, who is a chicken mother, a kitchen mother, you will learn a few things. So, I knew that when you are cutting the chicken, my most important thing is to do the goalkeeping job, dive to catch the fowl. It wasn't a poultry farm one that who are so dummy that they will just come there and somebody will catch them. But man, the local chickens, they know how to defend themselves. They have mastered the art of self-defense. In fact, the village local chickens, they know even how to fight a hawk that is trying to catch their baby. He said that when they see the hawk flying, they know, and they will sound alarm, and then their chicks will be positioned somewhere. So as the thing flies down, they will engage it in a fight. So imagine catching one of that for the naming ceremony in the house. So we have to have the midfielders and all the people that will play the ball and grab the chicken, and then we dive to catch it, and sometimes by the time we catch the chicken, it's half dead. Because it has been tortured. We run after it, and they are never quiet when they are running. Everybody will know. In fact, that's an announcement to the whole village that a chicken is going to give its life. An altar call has just been made for a chicken. And so when they butcher it, they said there's something that if that thing should break or burst, it will mess up the whole meat. And that is the gall. It's like a fluid that you can drown in, and it is a fluid that is bitter, acidically bitter. And God said that when you are in the gall of bitterness, you are in prison of iniquity. That is serious. Without touching what we did last Sunday, a lot of things are dropping on you this morning. To even give you a reflection of your mind of last Sunday, we said that your fault. I mean, it's not your fault that you got offended, but it's your fault that you keep the offense. Has somebody got the Bible now to open to the book of 2 Samuel chapter 13, verse 14? Let's go back, to the movie. Let's go back to the theater. And this is the same theater. You remember the superstars in the theater, the whole of Israel at the background. The superstars are David, the king, Absalom, the son of the king, Amnon, the son, also the brother of Absalom, Ahithophel, and Hushai. Ahithophel was the counselor. Hushai was a friend of David. And there are other. Sometimes you watch movie, you have the stars, but there are some, nameless people that show up. So it is after the movie that you see credit. And those ones are tiny, tiny names. And you go to read. So, can you open and read 2 Samuel chapter 13, verse 14? There's somebody that... because, by microphone.
the Lord.
Yeah.
2 Samuel 13, verse 14.
Mm-hmm.
Howbeit, he would not hearken unto her voice, but being stronger than she, forced her and lay with her.
Mm-hmm. Continue.
Then Ammon hated her exceedingly, so that the hatred wherewith he hated her was greater than the love wherewith he had loved her. And Ammon said to her, Arise, be gone.
Continue reading till I ask you to stop.
And she said unto him, There is no cause. This evil in sending me away is greater than the other that thou didst unto me. But he would not hearken unto her. Then he called his servant that ministered unto him and said, Put now this woman out from me, and bolt the door after her. 18. And she had a garment of divers colors upon her, for with such robes were the king's daughters that were virgins apparelled. Then his servant brought her out and bolted the door after her. And Tamar put ashes on her head, and rent her garment of divers colors that was on her, and laid her hand on her head, and went on crying. And Absalom, her brother, said unto her, Had Amnon thy brother been with thee? But hold now thy peace, my sister. He is thy brother. Regard not this thing. So Tamar remained desolate in her brother Absalom's house. But when King David heard all these things, he was very wroth.
Take notice of verse 21. King David heard it. He was very angry. Go on.
And Absalom spake unto his brother Ammon, neither good nor bad, for Absalom hated Ammon, because he had forced his sister Tamar. 23. And it came to pass when 2 full years that Absalom had sheep-herers in Baal-Hazor, which is beside Ephraim, and Absalom invited all the king's sons.
Okay, let's pause it here. Amnon, to use simple language, raped Tamar, who was his half-sister. Apart from being incestuous act, it was a criminal act, immoral, bad, defiling her own sister. And Absalom, the brother, the full brother of Tamar, is the one who has now taken the center stage. And he was very angry. But the Bible says in verse 21 of that 2 Samuel 13 that when the king, that is David, heard it, he too was very angry. But listen to this. It is very possible that King David was also blaming himself. Apart from the pain, because Tamar was his daughter, and nobody would want his daughter to be raped by anybody. And so he was pained, he was angry, but at the same time, he was dealing with some kind of guilt because he, so to say, it may appear to have aided the crime. Because he was the one that instructed Tamar to go to the house of Amnon. Amnon requested from his father that, my father, please, I would like you to let my sister. He didn't say, I would like you to send my rape victim. It says, send my sister. And so David felt that, man, this even looks good. My polygamous family, one from another woman, is asking for the one from another wife. That is unity now. So, Tamar, your brother needs your help. Your brother wants you to go and do this for him. So go. Tamar might say, Papa, I have other things. I said, look, your brother needs you. So for Tamar to go to the house of Amnon was on the instigation of David. David innocently became accessories to the crime. Without knowing what was going to happen, allowed Tamar to go there. And so hearing that what he permitted has resulted to that, he was not only pained, he was angry, but at the same time, he was also feeling guilty. And I am sure he was struggling. What do I do about this matter? How am I going to treat it? How am I going to deal with it? Already it has registered that he was very angry. So while contemplating on what to do, 2 years passed. 2 years passed. And Absalom felt that the time that was going on, and all this while, Absalom, the transferred aggression, the pain, the anger, the bitterness is no longer on Amnon. It has come on both Amnon and David. And eventually he said, I'm going to take matters into my own hands. I'm going to do something. So he waited for his birthday to come. And when his birthday was coming, he too went to his father. For Amnon to rape Tamar, the father was involved. Now, for me to kill Amnon, I must involve my father. You see what bitterness can do? So he goes to the father and said, Papa, my birthday is coming. Didn't mention Amnon, didn't mention Tamar, didn't mention anything. He said, my birthday is coming. I would like you to let all my brethren come to my house and celebrate with me. And David somehow was dealing with the memory of 2 years ago something. Said, must all your brethren, come? I mean, your birthday is not a landmark, birthday. What's going on? And I'm sorry, not even a birthday. It's sharing of his sheep, which was a harvest, which was annual thing. They too should have their fun, but must everybody come to your own? Papa, I really want them to come, and okay. Especially the boys. If the girls don't come, so I'm sure David felt that this time no girl is involved, so. All of you, Amnon, this day, your brother, Absalom, is sharing his sheep. All of you should go and celebrate with him. And they all went under the instigation of David again. And that we see that in 2 Samuel 13 from verse 23 to 29. Man of God, you are still in that, there. Let's read 23 to 29. And it came to pass that after 2 years that Absalom had sheep, but the king said to Absalom, verse 25, no, my son, let us not all go now, lest we be a burden to you. Then he urged him, but he will not go, and he blessed him. Then Absalom said, if not, please let my brother Amnon go with us. And the king said to him, why should he go with you? But Absalom urged him, so he let Amnon and all the king's sons, the boys only. Now Absalom had commanded his servants, saying, watch now, when Amnon's heart is merry with wine, and when I say to you, strike, remember the word is what? Strike. Everybody say after me, strike. Say after me, strike. Good, good, good. That's the word. The moment you hear me say strike, you know what you're going to do? You're going to strike Amnon. And don't strike him with just, don't slap him. Kill him. Make sure he is permitted. So he gave the instruction. And as the party was going on, all his servants were listening for one word. What word is that? So when they play the music, anything they are saying, he will shout, praise the Lord. They don't get the word what? It doesn't matter whatever they said. They were waiting for. So while they were going, he was watching. When he saw that Amnon now started staggering. He was drunk. And he's, just staggering and sat down. Hey. Watagua in our country. And he started. He knew that it was going. And suddenly, Amnon was, going, I wanna, yeah, I wanna. So, Absalom knew that he was going until after he had gone, he knew he was gone. And suddenly the sound comes, strike! And what did they do? Killed him. After they killed him, there was pandemonium. Everybody was running. And then David hears that his son has been killed. In fact, he was so that all his sons were killed. Then somebody came and said, no, not all your sons. Only one has been killed. David is pained, grieved. What do I do? I had a problem I'm trying to resolve. 2 years, I've not found an answer. While waiting for an answer, now, here it is. It's now becoming so complicated. What do I do? I don't even want to see the face of Absalom. For 3 years, Absalom ran, he wasn't seeing him. And somehow, as a father, he was missing his son, Absalom. I lost Amnon. Listen to me. Absalom arguably was like the heir apparent of David. Absalom arguably was the next to be the king. He had the destiny of kingship on him. And David was now wondering, how is this kingdom going to be? Absalom. So 3 years he was missing his son. His bowers were yearning for his son. And he managed to do some political, movement, and Absalom came home. But when he came, he was struggling to see him. And Absalom, his own bitterness was growing. And now the bitterness seemingly had been avenged. Amnon had been killed. This is why I said some things earlier. Amnon, who offended him, had been killed. He had got revenge, but had bitterness gone? Mba. In other words, revenge does not cure bitterness. So even though Amnon was dead, it was about the beginning of the real trouble. And he comes home, and this time around, and revenge does not end with one. It will always have a multiple effect. He has killed his brother, but deep down within him, his father is also culpable. The father must also suffer. The father who failed to act, who failed to do something, I must do something to him. What do I do to my father? I won't want to kill him, but I will overthrow him. I will take his position. And I will do what he ought to have done that he didn't do. So he will come to the gate and begin to politic against his father. He will stand there, and when somebody has a case, he will stand there and say, it's just that I'm not the king. If I was the king, this your matter is so easy. It would have been solved like this. I don't know what that man sitting on the throne is doing. These are some of the things that I've been talking to you people about. You don't hear me. And they say, when did you talk to us? I said, well, listen now. That man ought not to be in the office. And then it was going on. He was gathering people. He was gathering, kind of political cloud. And eventually, something happens. He looked at Ahithophel and said, as long as Ahithophel is close to my father, there's nothing I can do. So I need Ahithophel. So comes Ahithophel, into this matter now. And he begins to scheme. He began to scheme to get Ahithophel. Ahithophel was the chief counselor, the chief, counselor of King David. He was the chief of staff. Anything David did, he sought his counsel to do that. And Ahithophel was loyal to the core. And Absalom began to scheme, including attacking him, attacking his farm, until eventually Ahithophel collapsed. And Ahithophel came to him. Now I've got the scoop. I have got Ahithophel on my side. There's nothing I cannot do. Ahithophel, the pillar of David's kingdom, is with me. And so that now became his political tool, letting people know that even Ahithophel is with me. Have you ever heard people who came to bring a gossip to you and they will say, even Pastor so-and-so, even Deacon so-and-so? They mention names that will authenticate the legitimacy of their advancement of their agenda. So Ahithophel became the key person, somebody who had defected, who had cross-carpeted, who has decamped from the party, and now we have got the presidency because we have this guy on our side. And while this was going on, David said, what am I going to do? And David hears that Ahithophel was on the side of Absalom. And last Sunday, we ended with a question. Why did Ahithophel join forces with Absalom? I'm sure you're still waiting for the answer. What will make a man of that stature, enter arms conflict against David on the side of Absalom? We will know that from the counsel he gave, the advice he gave. Ahithophel is now with Absalom. Then he gave a counsel. I'm going to read a counsel to you. Because while this was going on, David had to run away. In 2 Samuel 15, David ran away. He went in exile. He was running away. He doesn't want bloodshed. This thing cannot lead to decimating the whole kingdom. There shouldn't be further bloodshed. So let me run, let me go, and let Absalom, have his way. And while David was in exile, he went with his wives and left his concubines behind. May you not be a concubine, because when there is problem, wives will be taken, concubines will be left. So when David was running, now wife in carry go, left all the women, the concubines behind. You are burdened. And then he took off and he was gone. Then something happened while he was exiled. You can read that in 2 Samuel 15. A friend of his, Hushai, heard that David was running. So he too ran and went to David. And when David saw him, Hushai was his friend, said, Hushai, where are you going? He said, I cannot stay back there. If you are going, I am going. So Hushai said, I'm going with you. And David said, listen, he was very clever. David was very intelligent. He said, look, right now, I'm not in the palace. I don't even know where my next income is going to come from. So if you follow me, you are rather going to be a burden to me. But this is what I need you to do. Are you still my friend? Yes. Do you love me? Yes. Will you defend me? Yes. Go back home. And instead, go and join forces with Absalom. Go and give yourself, offer yourself to his, your service to him. Tell him, I want to serve you. And when he asks you, tell him that there's no use for me to follow a deposed king. I would rather want to follow the king that is in office. We like Egypt, any government in office, any government in power. Okay, so you are the one. You are now you be the person. So Hushai came, and as soon as Hushai came to Absalom, Absalom said, I know you. You are my father's friend. Is that how you treat your friend? That your friend ran away, you have left him, and Hushai rehearsed what he has rehearsed and said, why will I follow a person that is no longer in office? As I served your father, that is how I will serve the new king. You are the new king. Look, forgetting the past, I press towards the mark. When we want to do something, we quote scriptures. So Hushai joins David. Absalom. Absalom is happy. I've got my father's chief counselor, and I've got my father's best friend. What lack I yet? And now, it is like, we gotta do, what we gonna do? Ooh, ooh, ooh. Now I have you people, what are we going to do? And then he says, okay, Ahithophel, what do you think we should do? And Ahithophel said, Absalom, this is what you're going to do. Your father left his concubines behind. I am going to make an arrangement, and they will set up a bed on the roof of your father's house, at the top of your father's house, and you're going to sleep with your father's concubine in such a way that it will be recorded and everybody will see it. It's going to go viral. It's going to be visible, public. And Absalom said, what? My father's concubine. Most of them are very young, they are your age mates, and some of them are younger than you. Yes, but go, you are going to do that. This is one thing we can do to hurt your father deep. He will not even come back. And Absalom said, wow. At that time, any advice that Ahithophel gave was like the voice of God. You don't question his advice. But remember, Hushai had come there. Hushai was supposed to be the fifth column, the eye of David, to report things to So he infiltrated into the camp and he became an Absalomite, but he was a Davidian. So he was there. And so when Absalom heard the advice of Ahithophel, he turned to him and said, well, what do you think about the advice of Ahithophel? And Hushai said, that advice will not be good. If you do that, the whole of Israel will hate you. And when you do that, you will damage your own record. Because for you to have gone to sleep with your father's concubine, that will not go down well with them. So when you become the king, they will not respect you. And I know you will be the king. Don't spoil your record. Otherwise, after you win the election, Supreme Court will chuck you out. So when Absalom heard that, hey, king, okay, he is not going to do what Ahithophel. When Ahithophel, I'll come back to that next week, why Ahithophel went and killed himself. But the Bible tells us that Ahithophel said, go and sleep with your father's concubine on the roof. I asked the question, why did Ahithophel join forces with Absalom?